Alright, looks like we're live. Stream quality, healthy.
Stream quality, chonky.
Oh, I've been playing. I did get some more Octopath done, finally.
Oh, yeah. You said it was pretty good, right?
It is better than the first one. Just because they
Alright.
kind of... They just kind of fixed some of the problems I had with the first game. And so far, I haven't really come across any new problems, I guess. Because the story missions or the chapters are way different now. Like, it used to be like, all of them were, you go someplace, there's a dungeon, fight boss, progresses. The storyline. Right?
And it's very repetitive.
Yeah, on all 8 chapter or all 8 path stories, all 4 chapters are mostly like that. There's like a couple that are different. Like there's like the gladiator fight chapter,
But it still was the same.
but it still was the same.
That one was badass, though.
Remember we had to go fight Red Eye?
Yeah.
That was a tough boss. I think Red Eye was like one of the first like, okay, this game is going to get hard now.
And it does. Like, it actually, like, kicks your ass.
Yeah. This game is a lot different because there's some like dungeons where like you go into the dungeon, you fight through the dungeon, then there's a boss, and you fight the boss, and the story kind of progresses. But most of them are not even that. They do have a boss at the end of the chapter, but one is like you're talking most of the time, and then it just goes right into a boss fight, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it just it just throws you right into a boss fight.
In the first one, it'd always be like, here's a town. Right next to the town is this, like, windy forest. At the end of the
Yes.
forest is a boss. Or there's a cave. Or there's
Yeah.
insert whatever.
No, this is way different.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, like one is like just like 30 minutes of like story talking to things, and then like your character like gets pissed off at this really rich person that like runs this town, and that person's like, okay, I'm gonna fight you. that's it.
That's
There's-
the whole chapter.
That's the whole chapter.
I mean, that's cool.
And that boss fight's rough. Like, it kicked my ass. I'm like, okay, I guess I have to grind for that one. Actually, I didn't grind for that one. I got that one through you know how the merchant can do hired help,
Yeah.
and the last option is like throw tons of money at it, and then like you do. It's like I can't remember what's the
Like bribe or something like that.
No. It's hired help, but like there's like 6 options you can pick of varying. Like the first level, you can like hire bandits, and like they have a sword attack, and then like it progressively gets more and more damage, and like the last one's like 30,000 leaves, which is a lot of money, but like it does a ton of damage. And I did a 4 hit that, and I got 999. I basically did 999 4 times in a row on the boss, and it got the boss in like 1 round. Well, 1 round. Because it was, I had only my merchant was alive.
Oh, nice.
Because that boss was kicking my butt. And I'm like, you know
That's-
what?
that-
You know what? It's like either this is going to work or I get game over and have to start it over again. So I just went, okay, here's all my money.
it's
Let's go hire this guy.
A different definition of pay to win.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm saving up my video game, my like 1-player video game graces for Breath of the Wild.
Oh, yeah. That's coming
I
out
already
soon.
told Lauren, I was like, that whole weekend, don't bother me. Like, don't talk to me.
Yeah, I'm just struggling to get time to go play Octopath 2. It's so good. It has way more voice acting now. There's still some like just text bubbles going back and forth, but not as much anymore.
There was a lot of text bubbles in the last one where they would just go, or something like
Yeah.
that, you know?
But now they voice act the
Yeah.
Yeah, that game's great. I can't wait till the new Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it looks absolutely jam-packed.
Yeah, the whole. I usually don't like. I usually don't like crafting in my non-crafting video games, because like it usually just gets in the way of like what I want to do in those games.
Yeah.
We will see if Breath of the Wild's crafting system. It does look like just a natural evolution of like the cooking system, where it's like you combine these couple things together, and it just gives you this thing.
It doesn't look like they went out of control, because like most of the time, like you combine two things and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you build like the raft or whatever they showed, like they made it really simple, and there's got to be a limit to it. You can't just keep like
sticking stuff together.
Things together.
Yeah, and really what got me on that like anti-crafting in video games is Fallout 4 did that, and it just distracted from the entire game, because like all you would do was you would just go into buildings and just hoover up all the items, so you can deconstruct all the items into like glue and all the components to build what you needed, and you had to build stuff to like progress in the game. It was just like, I don't want to do this in Fallout. I just want to like kill the ghouls and like getting radiation and stuff and all the weird stuff in Fallout.
Yeah. I think perhaps one of the ways that I'm hopeful with it is that you can utilize that to get in Breath of the Wild. You can utilize that to get past obstacles, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's what would make it fun. It's obvious that you're gonna have to in certain situations, but like if it's a tool in your toolbox as opposed to a necessary thing, that would be
the
fun.
whole combining things with combining like monster parts with weapons is a really cool idea, though, because it actually makes monster parts worth collecting. Because it used to be kind of like, honestly, I didn't give a crap about them in the game, and I'm like, I don't need them. Even on like the hardest difficulty, I never really used them.
Well, they didn't go towards much.
Yeah. Well, there
Like,
was
you
like
could get
elixirs and stuff.
Yeah, there's that, and then some of them went towards different outfits and armor and things like that. But never did you need it. What it feels like, I bet you they had this idea of the combination stuff before Breath of the Wild, and they just couldn't implement it, and they probably
didn't have time to fully flesh it out.
Right, so they left the whole system, and they're like, "We'll put it in the next version."
Yeah.
What I'm wondering though is, do we get to keep all of Link's tablet abilities, or are they entirely replaced?
Or is he going to pull a Samus and forget?
Well, I think the whole thing is he doesn't have the Sheikah Slate in this, so all of those abilities he probably doesn't have.
That probably
so
doesn't
I think
have.
he's getting all new ones.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it's kind of like what happens in, Majora's Mask is the same thing. You're like, you just lose all your abilities.
Yeah.
But you kind of get like, they'll get like magiced away. Whereas in like Metroid, they always come up with some convoluted way of like Samus somehow losing all of her abilities again.
Every time.
Yeah, what was it? What was the one in? Was it in the recent one? What's the one with Adam?
Oh, that's the one right before this. The recent Other M is
Okay, Other M.
Well, Adam actually, you first find him in Fusion, Metroid Fusion.
Yeah, but the one is Other M's the one I'm thinking of, and like in that one, like Adam just tells you can't use your abilities.
Yeah, they like deactivate it, and everyone hates that game.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember being
it's
really excited for that game when it was like announced.
Yeah.
Then it came out and it didn't do so hot, and I didn't buy it.
That's why there was like over a decade between that and the next official launch.
Well, there was supposed to be Metroid Prime 4, but then it got canceled and then restarted like twice.
Right.
Which is kind of
So
weird.
I've been reading the Metroid manga, which is actually official from like Nintendo says it is the backstory of Samus. Because I want to like if I'm gonna do the whole stream the game stuff, I want to be able to talk about everything, and it does glue a lot of. It makes everything make a lot of sense. But the thing that's crazy is like it's messed up. Like
Oh yeah.
it uses is like Samus is dropping F-bombs, which is funny, but like there's some really messed up stuff. Like Ridley talks about eating Samus's mother, and he's like pointing to himself. He's like, maybe these cells are your mother after I ate her, and like it was like a bunch of stuff like that. It's like super dark. And Samus like goes into a trance, and she's like trying to get people to kill her and stuff. It's really weird. Yeah, it's really and it's like. This is not Nintendo, but apparently that it's official for them. So
That's interesting.
yeah, I actually never knew Samus's like her backstory, and so it all like it's like oh okay yeah this all makes sense I guess.
Maybe these cells were your mother.
Yeah, I was like what? I mean it's also translated from Japanese, so like it has a little bit of weirdness in the way everyone talks.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's like. I burned your mother to a crisp and then I ate her, and like she's in me now, and it's like, whoa, come on, dude.
It probably like her essence is mine or something. It's probably more of a better translation than.
Yeah, but I think it was translated super literal.
Oh, okay, yeah, that could be it. It really depends on those kind of translations. If sometimes a super literal translation works better, and sometimes like a slight. Paraphrasing ends up working better. It really depends on the context.
Yeah. You have to know both audiences.
Well, not just both audiences, but you just have to know the material and how reading it will affect it.
Yeah, well, and only the Japanese version of this manga is Nintendo official. They didn't approve the translation. It's just like a fan translation kind of thing. So who knows? Maybe it has some errors.
Possible. Oh, I cannot wait till. Well, I probably won't be able to play that game right away, anyways. So.
Yeah.
Shoot, the new freaking Jedi Survivor game is coming out soon too. This whole like beginning half of the year is just stacked, and I'm like, I don't have time at all to play any of these games.
Yeah. Lots to do.
Yeah. At least I'm making progress on Octopath. Because I'm really looking forward to like how some of those stories pan out.
How far would you say you are? Like half through the game?
A third, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I'm at like 25 hours in.
Oh. But it's the same. There's 8 characters and 4 chapters per character.
Yeah, but then there's some like. I don't know if this is the same. I think there's also a set of missions that are particular to the character you start with, too. And then there are missions that are like duo missions. Does that make sense? It's like the duo missions would be like 2 of the characters have like a quest line together. But those are really simple. There's not like... doesn't seem like a lot of story arc in there, but there is some like... It's like them bonding over a problem or whatever. And then, but like the one that, because I started with Petitio, which is the merchant, and then there's like 4 missions on the board that are like, I only know what one is so far because I haven't completed it yet, but it's like a special side quest that's for that character only. Where like, because he's a merchant, so it's like one, like it's a, he comes across like another merchant that's got a phonograph, but you know this is like medieval times ish, so like phonographs are kind of like new, and the merchant can't sell it because no one knows what to use it for. And Petitio's like, hey, what if you recorded music on it, and then you can replay the music records. And so you are on a quest to go find like 3 bands to put it on and record their music. But there's like 3 other of those like special side quests just for that class. And I don't know if the other characters have it. I'm going to assume yes. They have those style of quests where it's like you have to start with that character to like get those. Because it'd be really weird if it was just like Petitio has those. Because like it's called like those quests for him are called the Scent of Commerce. Super corny.
Nice.
So good though.
Hey, speaking of records, you might be into this. This Saturday is Record Store Day.
Oh yeah.
And
I should head over to my local record store and see what they got for it.
if you go to their website, it'll show you which stores are participating in Record Store Day.
It's been a while. It's got to have been like 12 years since I've been to a record store day. Oh,
you got it.
I haven't even played it. I haven't had time to play it yet.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Look how many
I like
freaking
it.
tracks are in this game.
Yeah. That's legit. How many records are in? There's got to be like 2 or 3.
It is 3.
Yeah.
But this is for those that are watching in the stream. This is Warhammer Darktide, the OST for it. And I cannot wait because like the soundtrack is so freaking rad.
Yeah, it's good.
Speaking of Darktide and Warhammer, I watched over the weekend a movie. Oh, what was it called? Why can I not remember this movie name now? Oh, Event Horizon.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Yeah. I've never seen it before.
Yeah.
I thought I really liked it. That kind of movie is up my alley. But I started reading up about it, and apparently the director and the director for it like really likes Warhammer. And basically that's kind of like the unofficial beginning of Warhammer.
Really? Event
Yeah.
Horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Because of it's unofficial.
Well, of course.
But like we're like, you know, they have like the black hole warp thing,
yeah.
and like anyone that comes near it goes crazy.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's the warp.
That's the warp.
Ah.
And like that
okay.
inside of that warp core is like really crazy looking and spikes
With
and
the
stuff everywhere.
Sphere and stuff.
Yeah, it's very Warhammery. And the guys and the director was like, "Yeah, I at the time I was reading a lot of Warhammer."
Did you watch the version that has the extra content? Because they cut a bunch of scenes from it because it was too bloody. And
I watched the one that was on Amazon Prime because it was free.
then I don't think you saw it. You can go to YouTube and watch them. Like it was too much blood apparently to put in the movie for like even rated R, and it was just like everything is blood, just everything, and they're like in pools of blood.
It's pretty bloody.
It is, yeah. And so imagine what they took out.
Yeah, I was actually really. I'm like, man, I have never. When I finished that movie, I was like, man, it's. I'm surprised I haven't seen that movie yet.
It was labeled at one point in time the scariest movie of all time.
Really, I didn't think it was that scary at all.
Yeah, I watched it a few years ago for the first time, and I agreed with that. But I could also see, like, if I was younger, I probably, like, young, I would have lost.
I guess because, well, also I don't really think that kind of horror really scares me.
Yeah,
because it's sci-fi, it's fantasy kind of horror.
It's Warhammer.
Well, no, it's just like my brain's like, it can't be real because that situation just doesn't exist. Like the ones that get me are like real life shit, and shit gets fucked up. Because then it's like, okay, that is a real setting, right? That we can experience. Mm-hmm. Which is also like movies don't really scare me at all, but video games, on the other hand, can scare the bejeebus out of me. Yeah. And I thought about this because I was planning on playing Jedi, Last Jedi, not Last Jedi, Fallen Order, the Jedi game, more recent one, not the one that's coming out this year though. But I was gonna play that for the 24-hour stream.
Yeah.
I wonder if instead of that, it really depends because you're playing Metroid. And I wonder if Metroid would pair better with Dead Space.
Oh, Dead Space 1?
Dead Space 1. And then probably go into 2, because I think the first one would take me about 14-ish hours to beat. And the thing is, I've only beaten that game once. It took me like 8 times to like restart it, because I kept getting too scared.
The game's weird.
The game gets really weird in the second one.
It's weird.
But near the end of the first one, it's really weird. But the second one's guess what?
What do they call this? It's some kind of sim.
The Merker.
No. Like the genre. It's an interactive sim or something like that.
Well, Dead Space is not really like that, though. It's got combat. Or are you thinking like Myst, which is like a point-and-click interactive simulator?
No. Survival sim, I think is what they call it.
Okay. Because there's a remake of Dead Space that came out.
Yeah, not that long ago, right?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about...
Actually, it just came out February.
Yeah. Oh, it's that soon ago. It's only 2 months ago.
Yeah, you can play that.
Yeah, I just don't know if... I've already practiced Jedi Fallen Order. And I got to practice again. And then actually keep tally of like how many times I die and stuff. Because I know if I play Dead Space, like I'm going to die a lot. And so I have to come up with different rules. I think Fallen Order. Let's do Fallen Order. I'm already 16 hours into practicing it.
But at the same time, Dead Space and Metroid would totally go together.
Would totally work. I think Jedi Fallen Order would work okay with Metroid because they're both spacey.
Yeah. Like Jedi would be more on the space side. Dead Space would be more on the horror
side.
And Metroid is both.
Yeah, kind of both in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, what Metroid are you gonna play?
Well, my plan is to start with Zero Mission, play Zero Mission, then play AM2R, then play Super Metroid, and then go into Fusion and see if I can get through all 4 games.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I mean, Super Metroid I can beat in 2 hours. Most of the other games are somewhere in the like 3 to 4 hour range.
Yeah.
So like I can plow through most of those games, and if I do a practice run and at least generally know where to go, then you could keep crushing it. So I think that's fun. It would be really fun to talk about the backstory and then experience the entire story throughout the whole thing.
That would be cool.
Because that is sequential in the storyline. So
all right.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. I'll do Fallen Order.
Yeah.
I can do Dead Space next year. Because I definitely want to practice more Dead Space. I remember dying a lot in Dead Space. Like, a lot. And I think my recent, like, last
Well,
gen...
you also kind of die because there's a little bit of jank in the game.
There is a little bit of jank in the game. Even
like
the
getting
remake.
shot from around corner, or like you're like just your elbows that sticking out of the corner and you get hit.
Yeah.
There's like crap like that.
Whereas, like, Fallen Order is more action-y. Might be a little more exciting to watch, too.
Yeah.
Because you've never seen the end of that game, have you?
Jedi? No.
Fallen Order? No, I'm not going to spoil it. It's really cool. Like, really, really cool. That whole game's... I can't wait till the new one. Which I won't get to play. Because I'll probably play it after Breath of the Wild, which is after Octopath Traveler 2.
Yeah.
All right, let me tweet that we're live, and then let's go and kick this thing off. Because we already did a podcast about video games.
That's nothing new. Oh, question for you. Because maybe you know this. It's a domestic question. Lorna and I are trying to put a tree in our front yard. But we're not going to go put like a 3-gallon, 2-foot tree. We're actually, we've saved up enough money. I want to buy like a 10-foot tree and plant it.
Okay.
So what that means is you got to get a scoop truck out and they, hog a chunk of your front lawn out. And all gravy. I even know what tree I want. But I have no idea where my sprinkler lines are in my front yard. I know where my heads are, but how do you know a way to map your yard and find where the lines are?
And the problem is they're going to be plastic.
PVC. Yeah, they're going to be PVC. So, and here's the thing. It's been off all winter, so there's no water in it, which means I can't take a metal detector to it and pick up water.
I mean, you're not going to pick up water with a metal detector.
I was looking up, there are some ways to detect water in pipes using metal detectors, or some variants of metal.
I guess you can try to pass like a signal through it.
Yeah. So there's ways to do that, but mine are dry. So, and I'm not going to turn it on right now because we're still at risk of freezes. So, the thing about it is too, I don't know if it was professionally done or if it was just some Joe Schmo who installed my sprinkler system, which means like if a professional did it, they probably went around the borders. But if some Joe Schmo did it, they probably just like woo right through the middle of the yard. Like, I don't know, and I don't want to have a thing just crunch pipes.
The only way I know how to do it is, because I've done this before, is you have to dig around each head and see where the line goes, and then map that out on a grid.
Yeah.
And then assume it went in a straight line.
That's the big thing. You make the assumption that they didn't like do like a 30-degree.
Yeah. You gotta see what direction they start out at.
Oh yeah, James, there you go. Yeah, just get the little like 2-forked stick that guides you around.
Dowsing. No. What's that called? Dowsing rod? No.
Dowsing, is it that? Yeah, dowsing rod.
Okay.
Yeah.
With a W. Yeah, just find someone that's got one of those.
Divining rod.
Divining, that's it. That's the name Dowsing is actually another term for it, too. But I was looking for divining rods.
I was really, really, really hoping that there would be some kind of Star Trek thing that I could just do, and it would be like a stud finder for your yard, like where you could just find pipes.
They do that, but you usually have to put it's usually for wastewater, where you can put down a snake that can emit a signal out of like basically it's a long antenna. Yeah. I don't know if you can. I'll never know if you can do that on like a pressure side though, because But on a drainage side, I've seen people do that, and they make like metal detectors where they'll walk out and survey your lines. They also do that for gas lines, but gas lines are steel, and so that they can't, so they can actually just hook up to it and then just send a signal on it, and then they can pick that up. But since it's plastic and it's empty.
I was also looking at places around to see if I could rent a ground penetrating radar, and because that will the reflections based off of density will tell you what's underneath.
You'd be surprised at how like transparent those PVC pipes will be.
Well, and the other thing
compared
is
to the
the
dirt.
soil around here has a ton of rocks in it, so it would not work terribly.
I think if you wanted to do it like the magic way, it would be like somehow figure out how to get a lot of iron in your pipe so it picks up on a metal detector. Otherwise, I would just dig up around the heads like a foot diameter and see where the thing is, it depends too of how new it is. So they used to do like it'd just be a pipe, and then your head would just go on a T, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On it, and it would be on a rigid system. Well, they found that basically it took them like 40 years to figure this out, but if you run it over your soil moves, or you run it over with your car, and it jacks up the rigid pipe and cracks it. So now what they what they do now is they do a 90-degree, but it comes off sideways, and then there's like a flexi line that bends up or wherever.
So the whole frame can do whatever, but the head's kind of
and you can run over the head, and it just pushes the head down.
You see, there's only one. The place where I want the tree, there's no heads in the immediate vicinity. I just need to know if there's a pipe there. I guess what I could do is just start digging a hole in that area. If I find a pipe, relocate the pipe.
Just do a perimeter sweep.
Well, yeah, and then
call your equivalent of 311 first too.
Yeah.
I don't know what Denver's 311 is.
It's like 866 or something.
Okay.
Like that. I know there is a sewage line because I had to get it repaired when we first bought the house, but I know the tree's not going to be near that, and I know where that goes, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's just
James, that's such a good idea. Because I'm going to start building my place in probably the next couple months, and that's a good idea, is to just like drop a wire, duct tape to whatever line it is.
Heat shrink a wire on the whole line.
On the whole PVC line. It's such a good idea. Or you know what I'm just going to do, though, is I'm just going to get my survey, and I'm going to properly draw in the pipes. Then I always have where they are
properly draw the pipes in, make a map, and then just digitize it, and it's there forever.
Yeah.
And give it to the next owner.
Yep.
But the thing is, my house was
bury it underneath the concrete.
Yeah. My house was built in 98. I have no idea when the sprinkler system was put in. It could be original. It probably isn't. But I have no idea about any of it. I know where the heads are. That's it. So I was hoping that there was some kind of magic Star Trek.
No, not that I know of. Besides what the methods that we say that, can you send a high frequency signal to the water pipe? Yeah, you could try that. But he doesn't have water in his pipes right now.
And I'm not going to put water in my pipes right now because it'll freeze.
Put an antifreeze in there.
And then when I first turn it on, I completely toxify my entire lot.
There's biodegradable antifreezes, though.
Yeah, sure. I guess the first time you turn it on, you could run it for like 2 hours and just flush the lot.
Yeah. Or put like phosphate in it or something like that. Because you know that's one of the main ingredients of like antifreezes is like either a phosphate or a what else do they make it out of?
I have one other idea. Go to each head with just a hose. Get the soil around the head really wet, and then just take a rod and stick it in go in a 360 until you hit a pipe, and then you can just make the assumption that it's running straight off of it that way.
Easier
So
just to dig it.
it is, but that's also destructive to the grass. So, like if I could
There
just
you go.
poke at it.
I like James just put methanol in it. Turn on your sprinkler system and catch it on fire. Big old flamethrowers.
Just flamethrowers.
Or mercury.
Yeah.
Because mercury would show up on your ground penetrating radar that you wanted to use easily.
Could I tap in? Tap in at the valve box, and put a really loud audio signal into it, and then go around the yard and hear this with this signal. Just basically put your ear to the ground.
I think you would need a lot of power.
Yeah, you would need a ton of power.
The answer is yes, but
Oh, and you would probably hear it everywhere.
that would be the problem. Is you'd have to be able to focus it into the pipe.
Yeah. Well, but like I'm sure the Earth would transmit it pretty well in all directions.
Yeah.
So being able to hear the hot spots of the pipe would be really hard.
I would just dig the hole for the tree, and if you run into a pipe, worry about it then. That's what I would do. Because you're gonna have to.
Okay.
I'll put it this way: you already said if there's a pipe there, you're gonna relocate it, so it doesn't matter.
Well, but the whole thing is like the hole that needs to be made is going to be made by one of those big trucks with the scooper fingers.
I don't think it will care about a PVC pipe.
Well, no, but what I'm thinking is have them offload the tree, scoop my front lawn, inspect the ground, and see if there's a pipe, and then tell them to plant the tree, and then later I go and fix the pipe.
Yeah, that's
a pain in the ass, but yes.
That's how I would do it. You're gonna have to relocate the pipe anyways if there's a pipe there.
The place where I want to put a tree, I don't think there is one. Like, let's put it this way: someone would probably have to run the thing like a maniac for there to be a pipe there.
Well,
but it could be.
Yeah.
And I think there's only one, if there would be.
I would just have the tree digger scoop it all out, and if I was you, I'd just get a beer and look down the hole and be like, "Yep, no pipe. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Apparently, the number one damage to underground pipes is tree roots.
Yes.
Just eventually going and pushing on a pipe, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was the older pipes, especially drainage pipes, who were made with like slip joints. And so they would leak water, and tree roots like to go find water. So that's why they would grow into your pipe.
They go towards it, yeah. That makes sense.
Whereas, like, pressure lines typically don't get damaged like that because they're sealed. Typically. What was it? I can't remember. We were talking about this on the podcast a long time ago. I know we should start the podcast episode. But where, like, a certain percentage of, like, a city's water, they just have no idea where it goes.
That was, that guy was so awesome. He was in Austin. He did the utility stuff for
utility
the
monitoring
box. Yeah, where he was like 20%.
Pecan Street, wasn't it?
That sounds familiar.
Sounds correct.
He was really fun.
Yeah, where like something like 15% of the water, the city, like I think he was using City Austin for the example. Like they just have no idea where the water goes. It's just no idea.
Yep. They know the input and they see the output.
They put 100 gallons in. They put 100 gallons in, and are only able to charge 85 gallons to customers. So 15 gallons just goes somewhere.
Poof. Yeah.
Sounds like an easy way to water a tree to me. See, same thing. Same thing to me.
Yeah, that's like deep root watering right there.
Yeah, just replace, like, if you cut out a part of the pipe, just put a soaker hose in the middle of it. Splice it together with a soaker hose.
Except it is a pressure pipe, so.
Has all that. The tree roots will grow around it and keep it from bursting.
Yeah. We're visiting a tree nursery on Saturday to pick one out, and I'm just gonna ask them their opinion because they probably deal with this.
Yeah, probably. Are you gonna have the tree like whisper to you and tell you it's the one?
Absolutely. Actually, what's it called? Oh damn it! I think it's called a fire maple. That we want to get.
Is that what you're gonna get?
Oh, or no, autumn blaze. That's what it is. The tree like is like fire red for, a week out of the year or whatever.
Because at my place, I gotta get tree. Because my property only has 2 willows on it, and one is right on the property line, so I have to take it out. And so it only has 1 tree on it. So I was gonna plant probably some live oaks on it.
Yeah. But for you, it makes sense to just get bucket trees from the nursery. They're cheap. You can get them for like $50 and plant a handful of them.
Yeah, and then in 15 years, I'll have decent trees.
yeah, and you'll have some shade and everything, yeah.
Well, live oaks actually grow pretty quickly enough.
Apparently, in my neighborhood, when my neighborhood was first being built in the late 90s, they put a tree in everyone's front lawn, but the contractor didn't remove the mesh bulb from the tree. They just stuck it in the hole, and like 50% of the trees died because the roots didn't break out of the bulb. And my house was one of those.
Oh.
So it sucks because my front lawn gets pummeled by the sun every season. So my front lawn is like golden and crispy every summer because I don't have any shade.
Wait, so do I want to know this? So I posted our that we're live on Twitter, and it says, before you scroll, we're updating our corporate name in our terms of service and privacy policy. What did Twitter change their name to?
Wait, Twitter changed their name?
And I clicked take me there to read it, and like it didn't go anywhere.
Twitter changes its name to X Corp.
It is called X Corp. Goes in effect May 18th.
Oh, Elon. X Corp. I've noticed that their tweet activity is good.
Oh, I'm reading this new privacy policy, and like I want to read more about it in a little bit, but it's like they're like, we collect data about you, and this is what we're collecting.
Well, at least they're honest.
Well,
so is this still going to be called Twitter, or is it you going to log into X Corp?
X Corp.
Yeah, we're no longer called Twitter. We're actually called Skynet now.
We're actually called Skynet now.
What year did the apocalypse happen? Was it like 1997 or something like that?
Oh, in Terminator?
Yeah, I think it was 97.
I think it was supposed to be 97, yeah.
Yeah, Skynet was switched on August 4th, 1997, and it became self-aware in later that month.
So, in the United States and anywhere outside the European Union, it's called X Corp. If it's in the EU, it's called Twitter International Unlimited still.
X Corp.
You know, I'm not going to justify Elon Musk's actions or anything, but if I had that much money, I would probably also do really stupid things with it. And I bet you everyone here would probably also do stupid things with it.
I don't know if it's fair to say that it's stupid because we don't know the reasoning behind it, but if I had a lot of money, I would probably be doing things.
Yeah. I say stupid things because everyone looks at Elon thinking he's doing stupid things with his money. But then he also, like, got the world interested in electric cars again.
If anyone out there is playing 4D chess, it's Elon. If you ask me.
Also, you have to say that SpaceX did do really crazy things with rocketry. And I like how everyone also is like, before Elon went like what we would say crazy, like everyone was like saying Elon Musk was a brilliant person for SpaceX and Tesla, but since now he's crazy, everyone is like, oh yeah, he didn't do it alone at SpaceX and Tesla. So it's like you can't say one thing and then 2 years later say another thing.
Oh, you can.
No, you can. Yeah.
You can't just make it harder by doing that.
Yeah. That story, Steven, I love that story so much, and it's such a hard story to explain to people because it's such a video game thing.
Yeah, it was. All right, we should start this thing. We've
Okay. We'll tell that story on our 24-hour live stream this November for charity. Apparently, there's actually going to be another Extra Life thing coming up.
Okay.
I wonder if we should do that. So this year's Extra Life game day is November 4th, but there's like another Extra Life thing coming up. I'm checking. Huh. They don't have it at all on their website. It's going to be their 15th anniversary. That's cool. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm trying to find, before we start this podcast, if there's going to be another Extra Life event. All right. Extra Life United was earlier this month, April 4th through 7th, which we missed. Oh. That was an in-person event. I think I got invited to that, but I think it was in like Florida or something. Seattle. Actually, I don't even know where it's at. Oh, maybe next year we should do that, Steven.
Cool.
So Extra Life United is like apparently an in-person like tournament with different games.
Okay.
And you like represent your like local children's hospital, and the better you do, the more funds you get for them.
So like you're fighting against
other
giving
children's
money?
hospitals. Yes.
That's messed up.
A little messed up, yeah.
That's really messed up. Oh, okay. Yeah. If you're the person who loses first, you have to go in front of the hospital and be like, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, little Timmy. We can't pay for your operations because I lost in Mario Kart.
Okay, that's messed up.
Man, that's terrible. Oh, man. Yeah, literally Mortal Kombat, James. Oh, man.
Yeah, there seems something, I don't know. There's got to be, someone has had to have thought of that and been like,
oh,
there's
yeah.
rules to this.
Yeah, there might be like each one gets a certain percentage already, and then like there's like bonus or something on top of that. Yeah, betting on Little League games. Hey, Emmett, what's up? I wish that was on the podcast.
That I'm glad that's not on the podcast.
Oh, man. All right, let me get some water and let's kick this thing off.
Okay.
I gotta blow my nose, too, because that...
That was, yeah, yikes.
Exactly, Emmett. Exactly. Nothing like American healthcare where you have to play video game tournaments to pay for children's healthcare.
Like that could straight up be a TV series on like Hulu.
Oh, I mean, that could be like a movie that was
Battle
made
Royale.
in the mid '80s. Like Running Man is almost that.
Yeah.
Except it's instead of children's healthcare, it's your right to like a free trial or something like that, or like escape like the prison system.
It's like
Similar.
Squid Game.
Yeah, Squid Game. You know, I saw like one episode of that, and I'm like, this is not what I want to watch.
I liked it. It was entertaining and fun.
I think it was one of those like. At the time, I was reading or like absorbing a lot of cyberpunk stuff, and I'm like, I can't do another one of these kind of dystopian future kind of things.
Sure.
So maybe in the future I'll get around to watching all of it.
It's worth it. It's not that long. So.
No, and it's more like I shouldn't be making excuses because it was pop media for all of 6 months, so. I will not watch Game of Thrones, though. Like, after the smoke monster was birthed, I was like, I'm done with this series. Like, that happened, and I'm like, okay, I don't care about this anymore. Like, they clearly went off the rails. And that was, like, season, like, what, end of season 2?
2 or 3.
Yeah,
Like
2 or
that.
3.
And there's 8.
Yeah. When was the wedding?
I think that was 3 or 4.
For some reason, I remember the wedding. I might not have only seen that scene, though. See, this is the content you get when you come to the stream.
So, yeah, the Red Wedding was season 3.
Okay, so end of season 3's must have been when I stopped watching. I think that's when the smoke monster got birthed. I think that's the very end. Like, that's like the last scene.
It's really close to the end, yeah.
And I was just like, what the hell? Like, it comes off to, like, the Red Wedding, such a great scene and stuff. And then, like, that happens, and I'm like, wait, what? Come on. Come on, George Martin.
All right, let's do this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to watch to find out. We should really record our beginning, like, sessions. They just record them as, like, their own thing. I guess it's up on YouTube, though.
It is.
So. Yeah.
Oh, you're Your ACs are noisy.
Oh, you can hear my AC?
Yep.
Should be quiet now.
Yep. There's still some noise, but it's not bad. Something sounds like a fan. That's it.
Usually it doesn't pick that one up. That's like the purifier. Now it's super quiet in this room. It's kind of eerie.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Macrofab Engineering Podcast, a weekly show about all things engineering, DIY projects, manufacturing, industry news, and, well, that's not correct for this week, but I'm going to say Python. We're your hosts, electrical engineers, Parker Dillman.
And Stephen Craig.
This is episode 375.
You going to talk about the event that's coming up here soon, Parker?
Oh, I thought you were going to do something, but okay. Yeah.
Oh, wait, was I supposed to do something? I don't remember there being something I was going to do.
So in, what would it be, like 2 weeks when this episode comes out? May the 4th is May the Fab Be With You. It's a Macrofab event. If you go to macrofab.com/events, you can read more about it. It's a in-person live event for our like engineering meetup here in Houston, Texas, with our new facility, which is totally done. It's not done yet. Still moving in and moving stuff around.
It'll
and
never be done.
Getting everything up and running. You say that. The last place we were at, we were done with it like a couple years in.
Well, no, it wasn't done. You guys were done with it.
Yeah, we were done with that place.
That's the difference.
You're right. You're right. We should have moved like 4 years ago. That old place.
Right. Yeah, you outgrew that for sure.
Yeah. So our new like 48,000 square foot new HQ, I guess, warehouse, office place,
Facility.
manufacturing line is we're gonna have a tour, all that good stuff. So go to macfab.com/events for all the information and go. I think you have to register as well because there's gonna be food, drinks, that kind of stuff.
Good networking with
good-
other engineers.
Yeah, very good networking. I can't wait. I'm seeing if there's any other.
Do you guys still have the iPad on the Segway robot thing?
Fortunately, no. Well, it still exists, but the battery's finally just gone.
Oh, it's just toast.
Yeah.
I would love to log in and just say hi to people. That would be fun.
Yeah, I think it's got a dead battery now. And the iPad is so old in it that you can't like update it or anything.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. Well, yeah, so check out that event. They're super fun, and go see the new headquarters.
Yep. All right, so our first topic today, this is going to be kind of like an old school episode where we have like 3 topics.
Yeah. Way old school. We should add an RFO.
Oh, we should have an RFO. Maybe we'll come up with one during the whole podcast.
Yeah, okay. If you come up with one, we'll throw it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the first topic?
This is a question that was on Reddit, and this is actually kind of jives with what Steven's been working on the past week and a half.
Almost 3, actually.
Almost 3 weeks now. It's why is Python requested in embedded software firmware engineering jobs? And I would also expand it to just like electrical engineering jobs in general.
Yeah.
So I'll post a link to the Reddit thread in our show notes. But this is a very good question, and this is actually something that I've been like learning myself as well for the past couple years. We talk about Python a lot here as a tool for engineers to rapidly iterate scripts and data manipulation and that kind of stuff.
Well, and just to kind of jump off of that, the word that you said that is the key word there is rapid. Python is just very fast. If you need to execute something, Python is typically capable of doing it, and and doing it quickly. And if you don't know how to do it, it's easy to figure out how to do it. I think that's one of the main reasons why it is requested, as engineers should know it, is that it just doesn't have the overhead and the I don't know what the right word is. It's not so onerous to begin with. Like if you're doing a C# or C++, whatever, a program, there's a lot of overhead that you have to start with in order to get just to the point where you can, print hello world kind of thing. Whereas with Python, you just go. It's just so much faster.
Yeah, I think it's just a really useful tool. I mean, honestly, like any kind of higher level language like C++, C#, that kind of stuff that's running on a PC can probably do, and it can do what I'm about to talk about, which is kind of like gluing systems together. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you're building some hardware and some software to test your product that you're designing, your hardware project. And you want to basically, let's say, measure how much current it pulls, and then put the device into sleep mode, and then measure its current in sleep mode, and then take the difference. The great thing about Python is it has such a breadth of like modules that people have already written, and this is sure with all other libraries, but it seems that people have kind of not so much standardized on Python to do this kind of work. With it, basically using like stuff like Skippy and PyVisa to be able to talk to multimeters, other devices like that. Sure, you can just open up a COM port and hit it with some C++ to do the same serial communication, but it's going to be a lot more verbose ways to do that. Whereas in like Python, it's seriously like import PyVisa, and then it's like PyVisa.write, and then your command. That's it. I think that's like all you need to do to talk to like a multimeter, which is kind of crazy. That's just like 2 lines of code.
And that's the thing. Like, it's not only is it just 2 lines of code, but say you go into work, you didn't know you needed to talk to a multimeter that day, and you needed to figure out how to talk to a multimeter that day. Get Python, learn those 2 lines of code, and you're already talking to it. That's where the power of Python comes in. Is just how easy it is to execute a high level thing. Mm-hmm. And there's probably a library or a module that someone has made out there that does what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So it's also easy to import stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting where we actually had this discussion with embedded.fm, the folks over there, where software engineers are totally fine just doing like import module whatever and kind of trusting it's going to do what it should be doing, whereas a hardware engineer is like, I am going to design my own footprint libraries because I don't trust anything, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to play both sides there. You have to be the engineer that won't trust anyone for physical stuff, but in the software world, you're going to trust anything.
Well, trust and test, right?
Yeah, trust and test. But what I'm saying is you're playing both sides of the aisle at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
But why is it requested? This goes back to what you were talking about, where you were looking at finding a new job, Stephen. And we're like, you're starting to see where these they're looking for more, what in the software world you would talk as a full stack developer. They're looking for like full stack engineers that do more than one discipline.
Absolutely, yeah, and more than one discipline, but it certainly depends. Like if your business is large enough that you can afford having a full-time software developer or firmware developer, a lot of times they're going to do that, and then the that job is not going to be part of the engineer's job. But I think with Python, just being able to be versatile is what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. Such that if a situation arises where we need somebody to just code up something quickly, you would be capable of it. But if there's, if they can support 8 hours of day worth of coding, then that's not going to be part of your job description.
Yeah, they'll get an actual software developer to do that.
Right, exactly. But yeah, more and more I think engineers are demanded to have that versatility as opposed to specialties. I mean, as you grow in your career, you'll gain specialties, right? But certainly when you're starting out, being more versatile, I think, is actually really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing something like Python is great. I'll give an example at my last job of what an example of a situation that Python would have been really useful. I was going to do it and then just never really got around to it. But for our production code that we use for our CNCs, we would export it from Fusion 360. And sometimes our overnight runs of CNC work, it would be a text file that was 100 megabytes because it just had gazillions of lines of G code in it. And Fusion 360 played really nice with our CNCs, but there's one thing it did not do well, and that was the Z probing. So we had a flip down probe that would go and probe the surface of our material, and then it would make a Z map for changing the depths of things. And Fusion 360 was not good at implementing the codes for that. So every G code file that we would make, we would have to go manually just add in one line of code that was the command to flip down the sensor and go do a grid array. And it was dependent upon the product, because sometimes the product would, we'd be cutting half of our table, which was 500 millimeters by 600 millimeters in the Y. Some of our other products would be 900 millimeters wide by 600 in the Y. And so we just had slightly different commands for that. And basically what I had was just an Excel calculator that would spit out the code, and you would just copy and paste it in the text file. It's a really simple thing, so it wasn't so much of a problem that we needed to fix it. But I always had the thought that it would be really easy to have Python open up the script and then just drop in whatever code was needed for it. And
from your Excel.
Rewrite your text file. Yeah. You could do it from the Excel, or you could even make a little GUI that would pop up and be like, what's the width? What's the depth? And then it would automatically just dump in.
Oh, yeah. What I'm saying is I would take your formula from your Excel, put it in your Python code, and I wouldn't even have done the GUI. I would just done command flags.
Yeah, basically, if you had the script and your G code in one folder, you could just put them both in one folder. You run the script, and it would just rewrite your G code, and you're done. Mm-hmm. And so that would have been a really simple script to write, and I just never got around to doing it. But I always thought it was Python would be perfect for this.
So in the past 3 weeks, you have been doing a lot of Python.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the last week, I've done a bit less. Just life has been a little bit hectic, but I've changed jobs recently, and in between jobs, I had 2 weeks off work. And during those 2 weeks, I logged into Udemy, and I've been taking one of their Python classes. It's called the Complete Python Bootcamp from Zero to Hero in Python. And I chose this one because it has, I believe, 500,000 4 or 5 star reviews. So it's on the Udemy site, it's the Python class to take. Mm-hmm. Everything else is. There's a lot of other classes that seem to be really good, but this one is just what everyone takes. And what I find kind of interesting about it is I could see a lot of people actually disliking this class because it is not very fast, and it is so they don't skip anything. The first few things are, here's how to install Python, and they click through the websites with you, and they hold your hand in every possible way. But I think that's one of the reasons why it has such a really high rating, is because when you watch the videos, it's hard to not miss anything because they literally talk about every little thing. And so I'm I don't know, 20-30% of the way through the whole course, and I'm just going to keep chugging my way through it. So mainly I've been going through all the here's data structures, here's lists, here's dictionaries, here's tuples, and here's all the little things and all the syntax behind it. But it's cool because they give use cases for all of these things too. Because like tuples are a great example where it's like, well, why would you ever use a tuple if you can just have everything be a list? But there's reasons for all of these things to exist. So to be frank, with just being, I don't know, 20-30% of the way through the whole chorus, it's been great so far, because this is actually, it's funny, this is all the stuff that I never actually learned with Python, even though I've used Python on stuff, where like I never learned like the base syntax behind it. I just started diving in and like Stack Overflowing my way through everything, right? Like which is cool because you could do that with Python. You can just Google your way to your solution. But it is nice to learn the basics and learn all the little quirks that are. Oh yeah, this just flat out doesn't work, or like when you read a text file, like the fact that like the cursor actually moves through the text file, so then if you read it again, you're reading from the last line of a text file. So the second time you read a text file, you're reading the last line, so it appears empty, which is like a trap for new players. You have to rewind your cursor to the beginning of the text file. So just lots of little things like that where you could get to reading a text file quickly, but if you didn't know something like that, then you get really confused after it. I think classes like this are really well equipped for getting you past those things that would just be a giant headache until you figure that out. So I'm planning on completing the course. It's just I've started my new job and that's consuming me right now. So
I've always wanted to take like a more advanced Python class. Maybe if someone's out there knows of like maybe like Python backend web development, using like AWS or something.
Yeah. See where I've gotten to so far. I know that this class I'm taking goes more advanced. You would absolutely hate this class. Like
probably
you would be really mad about this class if you started it, especially because it works in it's not running in an IDE like PyCharm or something like that. They run on Anaconda doing like the cells, stuff, which is really great to learn.
Yeah, it's very good to learn.
But because you could basically rewind your code and fix issues like in line effectively, which is, it feels very academic. It doesn't feel very practical. So I've always done all my stuff in PyCharm, and I'm looking forward to getting out of the cells.
Yeah. PyCharm is as an IDE is really good. I've been actually starting to migrate over to VS Code, which is like the software developers at Macrofab are like, Parker, PyCharm's great, but here's what the big boys use. And it is quite extensive of an IDE. But mainly I'm just learning like making like I finally started like the past like 6 months using like a debugger properly in Python, which is quite nice. Like using actually breakpoints and then being able to inspect it reminds me of a lot of like doing microcontroller development where you like will pause your code execution and you can just look at all your memory locations and all your variables. Think about that, but now it's Python running on your computer. It's the same thing. Now I know like all the software developers out there are like probably like pulling their hair out listening to me say that like just like that, but it's like if you don't know you can do it, you don't know until you start doing it. So yeah, it wasn't until about like 2.5 years after I started picking up Python that I'm like, you know what? I should really learn how to use a debugger in Python. And guess what? It took all of like 30 minutes to get it working. And then, yeah, now the first thing I do for all my projects is set up the debugger. So it just works out the gate.
On a tangent real quick, Arduino 2.0 has a debugger in it now.
installed the new 2.0. Is it called 2.0?
Yep.
Okay. So I installed that, and I have been playing. I haven't messed around too much with it. I do like what I've used so far with it.
Well,
But I haven't done any development work in it yet.
Apparently it only applies to the Arduino Zero. Well, I shouldn't
Newer
say
ones,
that.
yeah.
The Arduino Zero has a built-in debugger on the board, but if you don't have that, you have to have a Atmel ICE or something.
Oh yeah.
To actually do.
Yeah, it
debugger.
doesn't make your Arduino Uno mysteriously have a proper debugger now.
Debug over USB, right?
Yeah. I wonder how that works in the newer, because there's that Arduino Omni, which is their PLC controller.
the industrial controller thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got one of those, and I have a project at work that I'm working on doing that. I gotta see if that has the proper debugger support over USB, because I think it just has like a Type C connection on it, which you could technically do a debugger over. It'd definitely be fast enough.
Yeah.
And if it's got the right hardware, then
one of these days I might pick up a Zero just for fun with that, and just to try the debugger. So there's not just a bunch of print F hello.
yeah, print
I'm
F functions. Yeah.
I got past this function.
Oh,
like
yeah.
those kinds of. We've all done it.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
lie.
I mean, I still even do that sometimes in Python. It just depends.
Yeah, whatever works, right?
Why did this function just bomb out of the try? I have no idea. So where did it bomb out of the try? And so you just set up some breakpoint. Well, now I just set up breakpoints and just I'm able to step through it. But before it'd be like print in between all the other calls.
And where did it stop printing?
Yeah, where did it stop printing at?
It works.
Yeah, so that's Python. I would say for electrical engineers, just learn it. I would, besides super you're going to be a super academic engineer and I mean, even then, just manipulating data, it's super powerful for. It can basically replace MATLAB. I mean, it's replaced MATLAB for what I do.
I was just about to say you probably just pissed someone off by saying that's a MATLAB fanboy.
Probably. But Python's free, so don't have to pay for MATLAB. Yeah. But yeah, any kind of that's half your. Well, I say that's half your job. A big part of engineers' job is analyzing data and looking at it and figuring out trends to figure out what's going on and what's wrong. And Python can really help you out with that. Learn. I'll put it this way: learn how to write Python to do something, and for your next project that you have to figure out data trends or whatever. Figure out how to do it in Python instead of building 8 Excel spreadsheets with don't do it the Excel spreadsheet way. Try to do it with some Python and see how far you get. The challenge.
Okay, it's a challenge, yes, but if you do it in Python, it just depends on who the end user is going to be. Who are you trying to impress by doing that? Are you trying to impress yourself? Are you trying to impress your engineering buddies or your manager?
No. Because the thing is, if you do it in Python, guess what? Now you have a tool chain, so whenever you come across that data again, you just press a button and it spits out the answer for you.
Well, I mean, the same could be said with Excel. So.
And most of the time it's copy paste columns and crap. Pivot tables. Ugh. I hate Excel so much.
I would be wary about doing Python depending on who else had to use what I was doing. Just in that situation. If I was dealing with a finance guy, I wouldn't give them a Python script. I'd give them an Excel sheet. Even if it was something complex. But, I'm not trying to say don't do it. I'm just saying, know your audience.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Okay. Next topic. I've been working on designing pinball harnesses, and so I needed some software that was not Autodesk, or I guess Autodesk again because it's Eagle, to do harnesses.
What do you mean by a harness?
I need to be able to specify like connectors, wires, colors of wires, lengths, where looms come together and break apart. And what by loom is like a bundle of the wires or a bus maybe, in layout terms.
Basically, on the bottom side of a playfield, there's a giant rat.
There's a
nest
giant
of
harness.
Yeah.
Well, it's not supposed to be a rat nest.
That's why you're using software to help it not be.
Yeah. And before, I would always design harnesses in... First, I did it in Eagle for a while. Problem with Eagle and any other EDA tool is you only have a certain amount of colors. Like, because you have a certain amount of layers that have colors. I guess technically there's like some layers in Eagle that Eagle doesn't really use. There's like 100 of these like 200 plus number layers. Like it's like when you're looking at like you're flipping through the TV guide, and you get to those like weird channels that you never watched that are like 300 something plus.
Yeah.
And you're never gonna watch those. There's like 200 of those, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. But they all have like one color associated. So I guess technically you could go in and assign a color to those so you could have multiple colors for like lines and stuff on Eagle. Sounds like a pain in the butt though. And at the end of the day, you still don't have a way to manufacture that harness you designed, right? Like there's not like
a picture.
Yeah, you have a picture. And so then I started designing them in Autodesk, because Autodesk actually does have a way you can bring in like 3D models into a drawing. And so you can have like the connector there. And then you can just draw the wires out and then do a dimensioning and all that good stuff. So you actually have a actual drawing you can give to someone and say, hey, make this, which is a step above the Eagle one, right? Because in Eagle doesn't have a drawing you can give unless you like did it manually, the whole drawing manually, which, whew. But so Autodesk Fusion, you could make a drawing out of your design, which is kind of funny to kind of draw a harness in 3D space. But I did that for a while because that's the tool I had. And then last Friday we were playing Warhammer Darktide with Steven, I, and a couple other friends, and I was like, man, I got to design this new harness, and I don't want to do it the old way. And I haven't been able to find a piece of software. And Roz was just like, dude, I found this harness software called Rapid Harness. And I'm like, how'd you...
like 2 minutes.
Found in like 2 minutes. And apparently I was just not searching the right search terms or something. And we've even asked our Slack channel, and no one really had a good solution for it. Yeah. Anyways, I'm trying out this new software. We're not endorsed or anything. I don't know anyone over there. I designed a harness for my truck over the weekend, my box truck. Just using like the default parts that they have built into it. There's a lot of like stock parts that they have, almost kind of like McMaster, where like you can like pull in parts from their library. Actually, it's more like DipTrace, I should say. Where DipTrace has that standard library of components, of footprints. Yeah. It's like that, but for connectors. And it seems to be... I like watched a lot of videos on it and stuff. It seems to be very powerful for this like one task it is, which is building a wiring harness and then building the instructions to build that harness. So, like, it'll get you, like, here's your bill of materials, here's your wire cut list, this is how you put everything together, and this is where the loom and the bundles go together. These are where all the wires go into these connectors, all the pins and stuff. So it does all that. And that's all this tool does, is design harnesses. I'm currently on the free version of the software. It's kind of limited. To do the pinball harness, I'm going to have to like pay for it, pay to play. And it's not the cheapest option, especially when
No,
you
it really
you look at because you're looking at the pricing.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
Not cheap.
Because you look at Autodesk Fusion of how honestly inexpensive that software is per month and how much functionality you get, and then you look at this piece of software, and it's like all this does is design harnesses, and it's like 3x the price.
More than that. Yeah.
What I think it's
This
like
is this is $200 a month.
yeah, $200 a month. Autodesk Fusion's like 70.
Well, okay, so if you do a year of Autodesk Fusion, I think it's like $450.
Okay. Okay, you're right. I pay per month, so
Got it. Yeah.
I should pay for the whole year, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah, whatever. It's a lot. That's what we're
It's a
getting
lot,
at.
yes.
Yeah.
In comparison, for like functionality, like just raw functionality,
This is a ton.
it's a lot more. But if it solves my problem and it basically, because designing the harness in Fusion would take a long time. I know that from experience. So if it halves the amount of work I have to do to design a harness, then it's worth it. So we'll see. We'll see by next podcast if it's working out, or I'm like drawing it on a piece of paper and scanning it in to design the harness.
So when it comes to designing a pinball harness, what comes to mind first is that it's almost like it makes sense in my mind to have someone build the entire table and then take it all apart, measure the things, and then make a drawing off of that.
Kind of. So, how I'm going to do it is I have like a drawing. I basically have a drawing of like the whole layout. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I have where all the components go. Okay. And then what I'm doing in the software is putting those components in like their relative areas in the design, and then drawing out basically the net list is like the first thing you build of where everything gets connected. So pin one of connector 1, which is like, let's say, goes into like the pinball controller board, goes to pin 2 on the solenoid. That's the pop bumper. Let's just say that. Yeah. And you're just drawing all those connections out. And then the next step is to actually like loom it together. And so that's where organizing all the parts in the right spots. And then you can just put them in nodes and build all the nodes out. And then you go in and put in the dimensions. And then but yes, what will be is basically to get all the dimensions is you go and build it. So you have everything set up, run all the wires how your loom is set up, and then you take it all apart and measure your wire cut lengths, and you put that into your drawing. And then boom,
that's
done.
That's basically, that's what I was thinking. I'm actually doing something similar with the my guitar amps that I do. Like for my transformers, you buy them, you get 18 inches of wire hanging out of your transformer. What I really want to do is have a cut list, so I can basically cut them and crimp all of my connectors to them before they're even installed, such that once you slide them up in the chassis, you've got no prep work to do other than just plug them into the board and you're good to go.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it works out. But I think I spent like a couple days or a couple afternoons just thinking about like the process of doing it effectively and making sure it's like mostly, because it's not going to be right the first time. There's going to be like a revision where like where like the wire length's going to be like half an inch short or something like that, right? So it's like, how do I get 95% of the way there on the first go around? And then you spend the last like 5% tweaking numbers to get all the cut lists just right.
So are there like contract houses that make just harnesses for pinball machines, or is the main purpose of this to make it for in-house building?
Both.
Okay.
start in house, and then it will be probably built out of house.
Once there's enough demand.
Yeah.
Because I would think that a pinball harness would be a very pricey thing, just due to its complexity and just complexity in terms of number of wires.
I mean, sure, but it's it's no more complex than an automotive harness.
I would think it would be more complex just because it's like 10 harnesses in one.
Well, a pinball playfield, at least in terms of how I'm designing it, will have two harnesses underneath it.
Okay. Do you do like a high current harness and a signal harness?
Yeah, basically.
Got it. Okay. And are you? I've seen them loomed before in the the way you truss up a roast.
Oh yeah. No,
do
zip
the
ties.
wire looping. Okay, just zip ties.
Zip ties.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, if I could have it taped, I'd rather tape them. But we'll probably just zip tie it. That's cheaper.
Yeah. And it's plenty good enough.
Yeah, for all my automotive harnesses, I basically I put all because I cut all the wires and do all the terminals and stuff, and then to kind of get the shape of the harness just right and the lengths just right, the wires themselves I just cut little pieces of 2-inch long pieces of tape and then wrap it every foot or so to kind of keep it all together. And then I pull the harness out of the truck. Because I actually did this over the weekend on the box truck. As I built the harness for all the auxiliary stuff underneath the hood. So that's all done finally. But I had to build the whole harness out that, spans the entire engine bay and goes into the dash and connects up to all the switches and stuff. Built the whole harness, pulled it all out, and then taped the whole harness up so it's all covered in harness tape. And then put the loom on top of that, the split loom. Now, I don't really like split loom anymore, which is that nylon corrugated stuff. I'm in transitioning off of that. My red Jeep, I started using this product called, let me look it up real quick. It's called Easy Loom, but it's from Design Engineering. Easy Loom. And it's a soft split sleeve.
Is it the letter EZ loom?
No, EASY. Yeah.
Okay, so full on.
And it's softer, so it's not solid nylon, which is what the corrugated loom stuff is. And honestly, I really like it because it looks awesome when you put your, and also it wraps all the way around the wire, and so you don't have this split.
It looks like it overlaps itself.
Yeah, it overlaps itself. It looks great when it's all put together, and it doesn't eat your fingers up when you're putting the wires in. Whereas
the other stuff is sewer pipe.
That corrugated nylon loom, it just eats my fingers alive. Yeah. And so I have a whole bunch of leftover of that though from I actually ripped all of it out of the Jeep and did the whole Jeep in Easy Loom, which was awesome. It looks great. But I had all a whole cabinet full of this old loom, and so I'm using it on the box truck.
Yeah, this is not necessarily the cheapest stuff out there.
Easy Loom? No, it's not.
It's not terrible. It's $20 for 10 feet.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
I guess it's not really that bad.
Yeah, I think a master kit costs, how much does it cost?
The master kit was $156.
Yeah, but it's got
it's got a ton of stuff in it.
It's got over 100 feet in it.
Yeah.
Of different sizes. So I basically I have a master kit, and then when I run out of one, I just order a spool. I think the box truck is the eighth car I've wired up over my life. So figuring out the best practices and stuff to building a loom that it's gonna last forever. But yeah, I ripped all the corrugated stuff out of the red Jeep over the first half of the COVID pandemic. I ripped it all out and put Easy Loom in, just because I was adding a whole bunch more electrical stuff, and kind of fell in love with it. It's just so much. It's just so much easier on your hands, and it just looks nicer.
Yeah.
But
and it's got to be temperature resistant too, right?
Yeah, it already has temperature rated and that kind of stuff. It's definitely not as abrasive resistant as like the nylon split loom, but most time your wires aren't anywhere near anything that can abrade it anyways. It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
So
you're doing something wrong if it is.
You're doing something wrong if it is. But on the truck, I'm like, okay, I got a whole cabinet full of this stuff. I need to use it. So I'm using it for that project. I'll post a picture of the harness I made. Or one of them. There's 2 in it. Now I have like all the electrical done for the truck side of the box truck now. Now I get to do like the electrical for the RV side, which is a whole different ball game there.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anyone out there has like harness software, just lay down some recommendations, because I'm not fully married to this one yet.
It's just the best you've seen so far.
It's the best I've seen so far, and I was impressed with like how powerful the like editor part of like building the net list and then putting the loom together, and then like it doesn't seem to really care about what order you build it in, right? Like, so if you're like, oh, I know these are the connections I need, but I don't know the length, right? Or what kind of wire. I don't know about that yet. I just know it needs to be connected. It allows you to build it as you gain knowledge about the harness.
That's convenient.
Yeah.
So, and then you just change characteristics of the connections, like the wire.
The wire and stuff, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's what's interesting, because it kind of builds it like it's more like an EDA tool, where it's like you're building a net, like your schematic is building a net list for you. You're building the connections, not so much like, oh, this connection is going to have 1 amp flowing through it, so it needs to be 40 mils wide already. Like, you don't have to make that decision when you draw that connection on your schematic. So it does something very similar.
That decision gets made down the line.
Down the line.
That's cool. And it builds it the way that you would physically build it for the first time.
Mm-hmm. So,
where you know these things need to be connected, you just haven't made the decision on what's doing the connection.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I'm hoping by like end of this week, I have like my net list done for this harness, and we'll see if that happens or not.
I would think with a pinball machine, it's probably pretty thick, that net list.
Yeah,
because there's a ton of connections.
It's a big old what's the thing I don't like? Spreadsheet. It's a big old spreadsheet.
I like that. What's the thing I don't like?
Yeah, it's a big old spreadsheet.
Because I mean, every light, every little bumper, every little thing that goes like that is at least 2 wires.
At least 2 wires. Yep. It's a lot of wire in a pinball machine. It was something like, there was a documentary that was done on Stern a couple years back, and they were like, it's like there's like more wire in a pinball machine than in a car, which I don't think is true, but maybe at the time it was.
Yeah, maybe at the time, yeah.
Because I know even in my Wagoneer, even in my Checker, there's a lot of, actually the Checker doesn't have that much wire. I'll take that back. The Wagoneer has a lot of wire, though. But like the Checker barely has any wiring. It's like the wiring harness that goes to the rear is like 5 wires.
Just 2 lights.
Just the lights. Yeah. Once you start adding motors
I would
and
bet
stuff.
a modern car probably has a ridiculous amount of wires in it.
I think wiring is like the second most cost in a car nowadays.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Besides like metal. All the sheet metal and they got like different alloys and stuff and strengths of metal now, like all bonded and pressed together to make the crumple zones.
Yeah.
Like modern car body structure is very complicated. Whereas like old car was like thick metal stamp done.
Yep.
And new cars are like
if that wasn't safe, more metal.
more metal, yeah. Whereas new cars are like there's like 3 or 4 layers, like especially in the crash structure, which is like the part that goes around, like they call it the passenger bubble. Super strong.
Yeah, right.
So.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see it. I'd love to see if you have any examples, just like random test harnesses.
Yeah, we'll see if I can share the harness when it's done.
Or you don't have to share like the official one. If you
That's
just
true.
Have, like,
I can make an example off of it.
Yeah. I would just like to see a picture of it. I think it'd be cool. So I've been back to working on my CNC a bit. I'm actually accelerating getting that done. My goal was to have the CNC cutting something by the end of the summer, but due to some things changing, like I really want to get that sooner. And so I ended up getting a one of the axes moving just because I needed to prove out a handful of things about it, and mainly I wanted to prove were my calculations correct about like feeds and speeds capability with stuff. So the gantry that goes widthwise across. So my CNC is basically, if you take a top view down, it's a square basically, because the whole purpose of the CNC is to be able to cut 5x5 plywood sheets. So I just basically made a square. It's a little bit bigger in one direction than the other, but the gantry direction going across the width of the CNC is the X direction. So it's like if you're looking down the CNC and the gantry runs left to right, that's your X direction.
Okay.
And then the gantry moves closer or further away from you, that's the Y direction. So the X direction, I have a 1,950 millimeter ball screw. So it's 2 meters minus 2 inches, basically. Pretty close to that. So 1950 millimeter ball screw, which that's a pretty damn long ball screw. You usually don't see them much longer than that because you get droop, but you also run into ball screw whip being an issue. So if you take a piece of metal like that and you start spinning it really fast, and it's
wobbly,
supported in different ways, it gets to a point where it starts to oscillate and it wobbles all over the place, and people usually call that ball screw whip. And typically there's a critical speed at which you can rotate a ball screw, and anything up to that critical speed is acceptable. And then once you reach that, that's when you start to get the crazy whip on it. And so a lot of times it's not your drives or your computer or your power supply or your motors or anything that are the limiting factor in terms of your speed. It's more just how fast you can spin the ball screw. That is your top speed that your machine can go. And so I designed around my ball screws to see what my top speed was. So in the calculators I used online, there's a gazillion. You can just go to Google and type in critical ball screw calculator, basically. And you put in a handful of values, and all of the stuff I researched with given the characteristics of my ball screw looked like I was going to get about 600 RPM was my max speed.
So any higher, it would just start to oscillate.
But it gets violent pretty quick.
Okay.
Like to the point where you do damage to things.
Okay.
Especially if you think about it, if you have the head of the machine all the way at one end, now your supported distance between the end and the next point that ball screw is the greatest length.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially, and on top of that, if you have your acceleration value set really high, you immediately start, spinning that ball screw as fast as you can past, 600 RPM. That's a recipe for it to just oscillate like a madman. And so I calculated that 600 RPM was going to be my max speed. The pitch of my ball screw is 10 millimeters. And so it ended up working out. I'm jumping in between units here. But,
yeah.
but I jump between units because in terms of most of my CNC stuff, most of my plywood CNC work, I do it in Imperial. Almost all of my metal work I've done in metric, and I find it useful to be able to just like talk about either and jump between them. And so sorry for people out there, but like I just use both. So when it comes to speed,
that's a very electrical engineering thing, by the way.
well, yeah, when it comes to how fast something is moving, I like Imperial. Like because my mind, if I say 300 millimeters a second, that doesn't mean a whole lot to, Imperial thinkers. But if I say like 4 inches a second, like that, you can conceptualize that most of the time easier. But if I say 300 millimeters, just as a distance, not a speed, like for me at least, I can visualize it a lot easier. So in terms of speeds, I'm working with Imperial. So at a RPM of 600, that would max out about 4 inches a second worth of travel speed. Not the fastest thing out there, but I could live with it, because here's the thing: most of my cut speeds, my top cut speeds, are around 2 inches a second. So double my cut speeds would be my rapid speeds. Still slow, but I could live with it. So I ended up getting this ball screw and putting it on my gantry with the expectation that I was going to get 4 inches a second. Well, I also got drives and a hybrid stepper motor. I ended up going with a NEMA 34, so I went big chonky guy and a 12 Newton meter motor, which is it's beefy. I did a few calculations on the how much force it would apply, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but if I remember it, like just doing calculations into weight using force calculations, it was like 700 pounds worth of force or something like that, which is ridiculous, right? Once again, we're talking about plywood here. It does,
yeah, it would be like
700.
It'd be like 4U pushing on a router bit.
Yeah. It would be, if you get your hand in the way, your hand loses. You know, that kind of thing. And so I get this all hooked up, and I take it up to speed, and it does 2 inches a second, no problem. Great. So my cutting speeds are like no problem for this thing. So I take it up to 4 inches a second. No ball screw whip. So I'm at my critical speed, 600 RPM. So, okay, let's start taking it past. And I keep going up like inch. I actually haven't reached the point that there's ball screw whip. So I don't know what I have done wrong. All
what you did right
online. Well, I can't think of what I've done right, because it's literally just a ball screw that's supported on both ends. But the thing is, I've taken it up now to 1,800 RPM, which is 3 times what the max speed would be, and that is just a hair under a foot a second on this thing, and it was fine. It was now. I say fine. I'm never gonna run it at that speed, and mainly that's just, what's the point of that much excess wear on things? And at the same time, I don't know what my ball nuts are rated for. The actual nut that rides along the ball screw, they have a top speed too. So first of all, you're supposed to be limited by your ball screw critical speed, and then above and beyond that, there's also another speed that the ball nut doesn't want to just fly across the ball screw at. And so the thing is, though, I'm getting 12 inches a second without any ball screw whip that I could detect, which, hey, that's fantastic. I'm happy about that. Like this Chinesium ball screw, I actually maybe got a lucky one, and it's really nice. So the cool thing is, I can probably set my rapid speed around 8 inches a second and still be fine. I mean, that's a little bit conservative from those numbers that I was seeing, and it's still twice what I thought my max speed was going to be. So, I mean, what's the benefit of that? The head gets around the table faster. None of this impacts my cutting speed, because I'm already well above, what my general cutting speed is going to be. I mean, I may try faster and deeper cutting speeds, now that I know that I can, and I easily have enough force to do it.
Yeah, you have the torque for it.
I have the torque for it. So I'm going to have to do a lot of playing around, because like a lot of times whenever I've been cutting, I've been sticking to the old rule of half your diameter of your end mill is the depth at which you cut. So if you have a 1/4 inch end mill, all your depths are 1/8 of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a rule of thumb. You don't have to stick to that. I mean, there's some people who cut plywood at full depth. They just plunge in and just hog across, and it works, right? You can get away with that. So, if I can reduce the number of depths, that significantly reduces your cut time.
Mm-hmm.
However many times you have to drive the thing around a rectangle to get your part, So, all this to be said, I'm excited because my calculations were off, but they were way off
in the right direction.
In the right direction.
They were off in the conservative direction.
It is a little bit annoying because it's like, what did I do wrong in my calculations then? Or are all these calculators I found online, are they super conservative, or are they wrong in some way? Or am I just not understanding the inputs? I don't know. Because, there's even charts. Like, if you just go to Google and you type in, like, ball screw whip charts, there's these charts that'll show, here's your diameter, here's your length, and here's your
material
max RPM kind of thing. And they all agree. They say 600 RPM. Well, I've got one here that's not doing that. So
I wonder if there's a material, like if you have a harder ball screw, it's going to whip less because it's going to be more rigid.
And there is also a factor of one side of the ball screw is fixed, the other side has a nut on it that actually pulls the ball screw into tension. I know that if you apply more tension, you can get higher speeds out of it. So the thing is, I know mine's not under a ridiculous amount of tension. I just basically snugged it up. So all of it to be said, I have no idea why it's good, but it's good.
Maybe you put a little more mustard on that tension force then.
Maybe I did. And maybe it actually doesn't take that much to get increases out of it. I mean, if you go to YouTube and you type in ball screw whip, there's tons of examples of, you could see them, people taking them up to speed and they just flop all over the place. The other thing is, maybe it's perhaps that my gantry's super rigid and all of my connections are into, 7/8 inch aluminum, and it's just really rigid, and that's working in my favor. It's possible. I'm not sure there.
All of it.
Yeah. There's actually some people who have some very unique solutions, shall we say. There's a video on YouTube of a guy who made a device that's like a neoprene. It's like a U shape, like almost like a horseshoe,
mm-hmm.
that the ball screw rides in it. So it's actually physically making contact with this thing, and if it ever starts to whip, this thing dampens the oscillations. But it's also in the way of the head, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if the head comes by, it's spring loaded, so it'll move out of the way of the ball screw and then pop back into position. Yeah, Parker's face is like, that seems like a terrible solution.
Yeah.
And I agree. I wouldn't want to do that, but it is unique, and
that's just weird.
Ball screw. They don't have ball screw whip because they just dampen it.
Yeah.
Which fair enough. So yeah, I got a handful of other things now that I've proven that one of the axes is good and great. I'm actually going to pick up everything else for it, and I'm hoping to get the machine in the next month or so to the point where I can get some chips on it, and so I can get all the stuff in and get it cutting chips. After that, the big thing is cable management. So that's like all your cable chains and all of that extra stuff.
Why don't you use a rapid harness?
Well, yeah, it's got to still be like flexible and flex in the way I want it to be. Actually, the harness would be really cool if you did the harness inside of a E-chain. That'd be cool. Legit. I haven't figured any of that out yet, though. So how I want to actually do all the cable management. I'm sort of, I got the frame done and I got all the pieces picked out that I wanted, and I just figured I'll figure that out later.
I thought you were doing like an
umbilical.
Yeah, I was gonna call like a crab grain, crab crane game kind of thing.
Yeah, where it suspends down from the ceiling.
Yeah.
I haven't decided yet if I want to go classic, e-chain in both axes, or if I want to umbilical from the ceiling. I think umbilical from the ceiling would actually reduce the amount of cable I need by a lot, because you just don't have to travel as far. But I haven't decided, because if I ever want to move this CNC and put it in a different place, that would mean completely redoing the wiring, right? So do I do it, air quotes, correct now, or am I expecting to be in this basement for a long time?
I mean, you don't have to put it to the ceiling. You can make a upper
swing arm.
swing arm, yeah, kind of like at a coin op washer place.
Yeah.
You know, they have the hoses that go up to the ceiling, and they have the little arm that just will swing around that has the hose for your spray gun and stuff.
Yeah. Because I was thinking of, we talked about this before, but put the cable bundle and the dust collection, zip tie those together, and have those come down to the head, and then it's just all in one, and it makes it
all in
easier.
one.
But I just want to get it up and running and getting chips sooner than later. So actually, after the podcast, I'm gonna go buy some parts. And one thing actually to mention about that, the Y direction, so moving the gantry, I have a dual X or dual Y drive. So it's 2 stepper motors, 2 ball screws, one on either end. And something that I didn't even think about it, but I was reading about it just the other day, and I'm really glad I did. I almost made the mistake of buying 2 different motors with 2 different drivers and 2 different power supplies. Different motors, different drivers is fine, but if they're both on the same axis, it makes a way more sense to make them run off the same power supply. That way, they both receive exactly the same voltage, and if there's any voltage droop, they both
at the same
receive
time.
that. They experience it at the same time, so that there's no chance that the gantry tries to crab walk, or that one advances more than the other. That makes it a lot more repeatable whenever you're doing a shared axis for the Y direction. So, in other words, I was using in my X axis, I have a 60 volt 6 amp power supply. For my Y axis, I'm going to need a 60 volt 12 or 15 amp, which surprisingly, like, it's not that expensive. Like, it's like $40 or something like that to get a switch mode that can do that. So yeah, I get to buy some parts, and hopefully I'll be getting some chips cut fairly soon.
Well, cool. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
We've got 2 projects that are in the works. So, want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So that was the Macrofab Engineering Podcast. We were your hosts, Steve and Craig.
And Parker Dillman.
Take it easy.
Later, everyone. Thank you, yes, you, our listener, for downloading our podcast. If you have a cool idea, project, or topic, let Steve and I know. Tweet us at Macrab, at Longhorn Engineer, or at AnalogENG, or email us at podcast@macrab.com. Also, check out our Slack channel. You can find it at macrab.com/Slack. And also check out our events page. It is macrab.com/events. And King, my dog, got a 3D printed part and chewed it apart.
Oh, fun.
Nah, he just wants attention. Be right back while it uploads.
Cool.
Okay.